Good day everyone, I am Julina Manzano Alabanza, BIT4A major in Food and Service Management. Today we will talk about materials management. This module covers the knowledge, skills, and attitudes required to discuss the overview of materials management, basic material handling and storage process in an industry, as well as the basic tools and equipment used during the operations in handling and storage of goods of a business and its other processes. It is also discusses the factors how to select machines and equipment to be purchased for the benefit of the business. What is the material management? It is the planning, directing, controlling, and coordinating those activities which are concerned with materials and inventory requirements from the point of their inception to their introduction in the manufacturing processes. It is also an important function of an organization covering various aspects of input process. It deals with raw materials, procurement of machines and other equipments necessary for the production in process and the spare parts of the maintenance of the plant, but in a production process, materials management can be considered as an preliminary to transformation process. So, these are the objectives of material management. First is the material selection. In material selection is a step in the process of designing any physical object. In the context of product design, the main goal of material selection is to minimize cost while meeting product performance goals. And the next is low operating cost. It should endeavor to keep the operating cost low and increase the profits without making any concessions in quality. In reduction of operating cost means the elimination of operating expenses or the avoidance of future capital replacement expenditures as a result new equipment installed or services performed by the performance contractor. Next is safety materials. With a thorough management of materials, inbound, outbound, and on-stock product will always be safe and secure to theft, damages, and expiration. Next is identification. With materials management, confusion of other procurements will be lessened. Um, in identification, it is a systematic approach to identify particular grade of material for reverse engineering, alteration, or repair of the existing assets or products. Non-traceable material and use of substitute material. So, the next topic is the classification of materials. The term material refers to all commodities which are consumed in production process. This will basically classified as the direct materials and indirect materials. This picture is an example of inventory classification. In this picture shows that the raw material is first subjected to a manufacturing process because it becomes finished goods. Raw material is also present with work in process and finished goods. It is a continuous process. So in inventory classification includes resources that have future economic value. It indicates that it may be available in different form depending upon the production cycle stage it is in. Classification of inventory is done on this basis. It does the different classification of inventory are as follows. The first is the raw materials. In raw materials, also known as feedstock, unprocessed material or primary commodity is a basic material that is used to produce goods, finished goods, energy or intermediate materials that are feedstock for future finished products. The second one is the components and parts. just a raw material are converted to finished goods in a manufacturing operation. Components and parts are assembled into finished goods is an assembly operation. The similarity of the component and parts is that parts is a fraction of a whole while the components is the smaller one. So the next is maintenance, repair and operating inventories or MRO. This include parts, supplies, and materials used in or consumed by routine maintenance and repair of operating equipment or in a support of operation. The process maintaining or preserving someone or something or the state of being maintained. So next is work in process goods. Work in process goods is a present partially completed goods. These goods are also referred to as goods in process. For some, work in process refers to products that move from raw materials to finished product in a short period. An example of a work in a process may include manufactured goods. The next is finished goods. This represents the completed conversion of raw materials into the final product. They are goods ready for sale and shipment. Finished goods are goods that have completed the manufacturing process but have not yet been sold or distributed to the end user. Next is resale goods. These are goods acquired for resale. Such goods may be purchased by a wholesaler for resale to distributors or by distributors for resale to consumers, etc. Goods for resale are the products that a business either produces or buy it bulk to sell for the purpose of making a profit. The cost of producing or buying these goods must be cheaper than the selling price that a business sets in order to make a profit. That is so-called SRP. The next one is the capital goods. These are items such as equipment that are not used or consumed during single operating period, but the extended useful lives in and must be utilized over multiple operating periods. Tax law require that such an item be capitalized and a predetermined percentage of its cost to be recognized as an expense. Each operating period over predetermined time frame according to equipment classes. Goods that are used in producing other goods rather than being bought by consumers. That is the capital goods. The next is the construction materials. These are raw materials or and components for construction project such as a building, bridge, and etc. The next is the hard good and soft goods. Hard goods and soft goods will vary depending on the industry involved. For example, in data processing, hard goods include apparatus such as computers and terminals, while soft goods include software, data storage, media, and the like, also referred to as hardline and softline. The represent and different types of goods a retailer offers. Soft goods include apparel and bedding. Hard goods encompass a broad range of products, including furnitures, appliances, tools, electronics, jewelries, and sporting goods. The next is fuel and lubricants. Fuel and lubricants are used for the oiling purpose for the equipment used in process, which again varies with the type of industry. So, in fuel and lubricants means all petroleum products used by the Lias in the course of its business hereunder, including diesel, petrol, heavy fuel oil, lubricants, and kerosene. The next is the stationery goods. It includes writing materials, paper, pen, ink, etc., which are used by the people involved in the process. So, The last is the primary packing material. Packing material like plastic, paper, etc. are used to pack to finish good for sale. The next, we will talk about scopes of material management. These are the aspects of the scope materials management. The first is material planning, standardization, procurement and purchasing, quality control, packaging, storage, and the last one is distribution. In material planning is derived from overall organizational planning and is always subplan of the broad organizational plan. What it does is forecast and initiate the procurements of materials. So these are the factors that affecting material planning. First is the macro factors. The and then second one is the micro factors. In macro factors, global factors such as price, trends, businesses, cycles, governments, and import and export policies, etc. While the microfactors, these are essentially the factors existing within the organizational such as corporate policy and inventory holding, production plan and investment, etc. So the next aspect is standardization. It means formulation, publication, and implementation of guidelines, rules, and specification for common and repeated use aimed at achieving optimum degree of order or uniformity in a given context, discipline, or field. Next is procurements and purchasing. Procurement means acquisition. It includes the complete process of obtaining goods and services from preparation and processing of requisition to receipt and approval of the invoice for payment. It is also called sourcing, while purchasing is the actual buying of goods of the seller and the buyer. The next is quality control. Quality control, it is also involves critical appraisal involving examination, measurement, testing, grading, and comparison of material or items. An inspection determines if the material or item is in a proper quantity and conditions, and that is conforms the applicable or specified requirements. The next is packaging. The role of packaging is expanding and may include functions such as attract attentions, assets, and promotions, provide machines identification barcodes, impact essential or additional information, and help in utilization. Packaging will also be discussed on this module on the later part. Later on the module, some packaging process will be discussed. So packaging includes processes such as cleaning, drying, preserving materials such as glass, metal, paper, or paperboard, plastic employed to contain, handle, protect, and transport an article. So next is the storage. Storage means non-transitory, semi-permanent containment, holding, or placement of goods or material, usually with the intention of retrieving them at a later time. It does not include the interim accumulation of limited amount during processing, maintenance, and or repair. Basically, the storage is the action or method of storing something for future use. The next is distribution. Distribution means movement of goods and services from the sources through the distribution channel right up the final consumer or user. Technically, distribution meaning it is the process of sending goods from one party to another. The goods are distributed between producers and consumers. The next is the material handling. So what is material handling? It is the efficient short distance movement of goods that usually takes place within the confines of buildings such as plant or a warehouse, or between building and transportation agency. So in material handling is the movement, protection, storage, and control of materials and products throughout manufacturing, warehousing, distribution, consumption, and disposal. So these are the types of material handling. Um, the first is manual handling and the automated handling. In manual handling refers to the use of workers' hand to move individual containers by lifting, lowering, filling, emptying, or carrying them. While the automated is any form of handling of material that is uses automated machines and robotics. So next is the material handling equipment. Material handling equipment, or MHE, is used for the movement, storage, protection, consumption, and disposal of materials within a facility or at a site. So in material handling equipment is classified into four. These are the transport equipment, positioning equipment, unit load formation equipment, storage equipment, and the identification and control equipment. So to understand the uses of each equipment, I'll show you some of the pictures of it. So in a transport equipment, this equipment is used to move materials from one location to another location. These are the example of transport equipment. First is the conveyors. An equipment used to move materials over fixed or path between specific points. So the conveyors can move materials with the facility and also for loading or of goods to its transportation docks. The next is cranes. Cranes are commonly employed in the transport industry for the loading and unloading of freight. In the construction industry, for the movement of materials, and the manufacturing industry for the assembling of heavy equipment. Next is the industrial trucks. Most industrial trucks permit mechanized pick up and deposit of the loads, eliminating manual work and lifting as well as transporting. Depending on their means of location, industrial trucks may be classified as hand trucks or powered trucks. Next is the unit load formation equipment. Unit load formation equipment is used to restrict materials so that they maintain their integrity when handled during transport and for storage. So example of this are pallets and pallet box. The pallet is a flat transport structure that supports goods in a stable fashion while being lifted by a forklift. Pallets have entry numbers. Some pallets have two-way, and the most common is the four-way pallet. So this is the example of two-way pallet and the four-way pallet. The next one is pallet box. It is a reusable container used to utilize and protect loose items for fork platform truck handling. So this is the example or of pallet box. Next is the storage equipment. It is used to holding or buffering materials over a period of time. It represents a trade-off between minimizing handling cost by making material easily accessible and maximizing the utilization of space. So one of the best example of storage equipment is the racking system or the racks. A rack is a frame of shelf, usually with the bars or hooks. It is used for holding for the goods and production to be stored. So these are the types of racking. First is the drive-through rack. This racking system is used for product that are moving and labeled with mass production. So this is the example of drive-through truck. And next is drive-in rack. in design for last in, first out, or LIFO type of inventory. Loads are retrieved with the same side, creating last in and first out inventory retrieval organization. The third one is the flow track rack. The flow storage consists of two elements, static rack structured and the dynamic flow rails. So the next or the last one is pushback rack. As a pallet is loaded from the front, it pushes the pallet behind it back one position. So the front pallet is a remove when unloading, and the rear pallets automatically come forward to the front picking positions. So that's all. Thank you for listening.